Hi, everybody. Welcome to another webinar here at Route Consultant, focused on the bread, the grocery industry. My name is Josh Gregory. If you've never been here before, I am the Vice President of Education here at Route Consultant. And so all that means for you is that I am here to help bring you information on these new industries, help you understand them, hopefully help you make the decision if this is the right space for you or not, and also answer any questions that you may have. Now, really, like I said, the goal of this is to help solidify your confidence, give you info, kind of update you on new things happening. And so we will have time at the end of today for a Q&A as well. So any questions that may come up throughout the webinar today, whether it's something that we talk about that you have a question on, or it's just something about the bread grocery space as a whole, we're going to be here to answer those, anything that you guys have. My ask, though, is that if you do have a Q&A, put it in the Q&A button at the bottom. If you put it in the chat, I might miss it. So if you want those questions answered, make sure you put it in the Q&A button at the bottom of the window. Now, so for today, if you haven't been on any of our previous ones, they're all on YouTube, so you can go watch all of the previous episodes. They're all free, and find out a whole bunch of information over these last few months on the bread industry. But for today, you're operating in this space as an independent owner. But that does not mean that you're doing it alone. So there are some really crucial relationships that you need to develop in this space in a few different places if you want to help set yourself up and make sure that you're really successful in this industry. And we're going to talk through all of that today, all the different places and people you need to know and why. And then obviously to help with that, we've brought on Stephen Ryan back to share his experience. And for those of you who haven't met him, haven't been on here previously, Stephen is our expert in the bread and grocery space. He's a current operator with a few different bakeries and has decades of experience here in this industry. So if you are looking for questions, looking for answers, Stephen is the man to speak to. So Stephen, if you want to go ahead and come on and say hello to everybody.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is great to be back with you, and look forward to it.
Perfect. All right, Stephen. So I teed it up. I started with it, but I'm going to kind of go through this systematically of some of the different places you might need to meet people and the relationships just to build there and kind of have you walk us through it. So let's start kind of at the bakery level. So you're partnering with one of these big companies with Bimbo or Flowers or Mission or Pepperidge, and I'd imagine there are a few different people that it's important for you to know and work with on a daily basis. So can you kind of go through who might be important? And let's just start at kind of the station that you dispatch out of. Who might be important to know there?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, if you're operating out of a staff depot, so this is going to be a place that has multiple independent operators that are operating out of one large warehouse, you're going to have a depot manager. This is going to be someone that manages the deliveries from the bakery to the warehouse. And so they're going to manage things such as FDA compliance with food safety regulations, the return of empty trays, rollers. He's going to bill you for your product as it comes in. So he's going to verify that nothing is missing. There hasn't been a stack of bread dropped at a previous stop that was meant for you. There's nothing that flipped over that's damaged, so that you're not being billed for something that is unsellable. He's also going to process your credit ticket. So the following day after you have pulled your stale out of the grocery stores, when you return back and you deliver it to the bakery, he's going to process those credit tickets. So he's a good cordial relationship to have, as well as other independents, so other operators that are running out of the same warehouse. These are good relationships to have. I like to have a group thread with a lot of the guys, so that if we get cut something, if there's product that I picked up that was meant for another distributor by accident, we can have an easy means of communication between each other. And then also, if I mess up, I've done it. I've forgotten to order for a promotion. And so the great thing about these businesses, there's a process for you to transfer inventory. If another guy has extra and he's willing to help you out, he can really cover, a couple days by transferring some product over to you and managing your promotions that way. So those relationships, those cordial relationships are really important as you're growing your business. And conversely, you want to be one to help out. So if another guy is short on product, it may take a couple dollars out of your pocket, but go the extra mile if you're able to serve him, and it's going to come back tenfold.
Perfect. Yeah, and now let's talk about the depot manager really quickly. Are there any kind of meetings that they expect you to go to or ongoing reporting, or is it only when you need things like those credit tickets? Is there any kind of oversight that they put on you that they're, having conversations about any kind of, if they see that you're not doing something right? Like, is there any of those types of conversations that they have with you?
You're not often going to see, big, large meetings. They may happen twice a year, if there are big promotions that are changing how they're operating. If the warehouse is having issues with, IOs not stacking their empties high enough, they need to be able to fill a semi truck. And so, if they're not stacking them high enough, that could be a problem. If you're not picking up after yourself, if you're leaving your truck on the dock too long, those might be some instances where you might have a conversation with him. But for the most part, as long as you look out for your fellow independents, you're not going to have any issue.
Got it. Okay. So they're not necessarily coming after you with like certain KPIs that they're tracking and staying on top of you for. Okay. Is
No,
it
if you're a staff depot, if there are hours, you need to make sure that you arrive before. If it's locked at 6 o'clock, you need to make sure that you have your bread out of there by then. But most depots are going to have at least a space where you have access after hours.
got it? Okay. Have you, you kind of talk about having a cordial relationship with this depot manager. Is there any kind of disadvantage if you have a really bad relationship with that manager? Have you seen any downsides there, or is it more of just like, they are kind of a blip on the radar, make sure that they aren't upset, make sure you're just kind of checking their boxes?
That's exactly right. Make sure you're checking their boxes, staying out of their way, doing, it's little things. So there's not a whole lot that needs to be said. And this isn't a main relationship, but, he is the middleman. And so, he's looking out for you, as the product comes in, and you want to make sure you have that relationship. So, he's not overlooking product that's damaged and you're still getting billed for it.
Got it. Okay. And now you mentioned developing all those relationships with fellow contractors at the depot. Do you kind of, is everybody there at the same time? Is it easy to set up those relationships? What have you found there is kind of the easiest way to start those conversations?
You're going to see a broad range. So, some guys are going to get there at midnight, 1 in the morning, and they love to be done before the sun comes up. And other guys, might start at 5. And so there's a flow to that. And, there may be some people that you may not bump into on a regular basis. But just that friendly relationship, making sure you're not, like I said, leaving your truck on the dock too long. Making sure you're looking out for one another. Those things just go a long way in building relationships and rapport.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, but it is huge to have those relationships with other contractors, because there's going to inevitably be some bad day where you ordered improperly or somebody called out as a driver, and that's probably going to be one of your only places that you can call and ask for support is another contractor in the same area who knows what's going on, probably knows the area pretty well too, because even if they aren't delivering to the exact same areas, it's close enough where they probably have some context and are more likely to be able to jump in and actually help. So it's huge for contingency planning and being ready for whatever may come in this space.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up. I remember years ago, I twisted my ankle playing volleyball, and I needed help the next day. And I called a fellow IO, and he jumped right on, and there was really no issue. He already understands the process. He knows how to work the handhelds. I just gave him truck keys and a list of stores, and he took care of it. So that wasn't a long term, but a quick stopgap solution for a simple issue that I had there.
Yeah, but sometimes, that's all you need. And it's the difference between that and not delivering anything at all and having stores potentially be mad at you for not bringing in the inventory that you promised. So it seems like a small thing, but it can really help out when you need it. Now, are there any higher level contacts at the bakery that you have to be in communication or develop a relationship with?
Yes, so on a weekly basis, much more than a depot manager, you're going to interact with a district manager. He's someone that represents the bakery on your behalf, and so he's going to be the middleman that's going to communicate promotional schedules, new product offerings, if there are any new store openings in your area, if there are new planograms. Once a year, all your major stores are going to change and refresh their mods. So that's how the product is put on the shelves, how much space you have. how many facings you have of each product that is brought in. And so that's all going to be communicated from the district manager. He's also going to be out there doing store evaluations on behalf of the bakery. Like we've talked about, you're an independent, you have a contract. And so there are some things that you need to make sure that you are doing to abide by that contract. And he's the person that's checking up on that. But he's also a great advocate for you. So he's there, checking with grocery managers, checking with store managers, asking for displays. If you have a good relationship with a district manager, he may even come out and help you build some displays. So we're all in this business to sell product, to serve our customer. And like you mentioned earlier, there's a team behind us to really do this and do it well.
Got it. And is that something where you just automatically meet them, or do you have to go out of your way to set up that relationship?
You're going to interact with a district manager on a weekly basis. And so it will be easy to get in communication with them. You might get one phone call a week, when they're in a store. Hey, was over here, talked to such and such manager. Store looks great. I maybe saw some opportunities. If we could get a display in this location, would you consider it? And so that back and forth is not something every day, but something that is great, that even when you're not there, someone who's not on the payroll is there advocating for the product and has the same interest that you do in selling product at the store.
Yeah, got it. Because ultimately they represent a bakery that needs to push product, and you're the one who gets it there. So it's in everybody's best interest to have that be as effective as possible. How have you, you talked about if they're in a store and they see problems, what kind of conversations happen there? What is it that they come to you with? Is it just suggestions, or can it be kind of a more serious set of things that they tell you to do to correct those issues? Like, what does that back and forth look like if they do see an issue in a store?
Yeah, so it really depends on if it's an ongoing, long-term in-stock condition issue. Are you arriving on time? Are you merchandising the product properly? Those conversations are a lot easier than if you're having a long-term problem and store managers are upset. If your sales are down and the whole market is up, those are going to be a little bit more confrontational conversations. But you got to remember, you're an independent, and so they can't tell you what to do. That's going to breach that nature of our contract. But they can certainly suggest it, and suggest it strongly, with maybe a breach of contract notice, which we've talked a little bit about and we'll get into further down the line. But that's really their only pushback against an independent, due to the nature of our relationship.
Okay. So they're there to be a guide and maybe some strong suggestions if they deem it necessary, but they can't really, outside of a breach of contract, they're not able to set strict commandments to you that you have to follow, but more of, at the end of the day, you're all working in the same direction. And so if they see ways and things that you need to do to improve it, they're going to call it out. And it should be a positive conversation when you have them. Is there,
That's right. It really
Oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it really comes down to in-store expectations. And so as long as you're serving the customer and managing their expectations, making sure your in-stocks are there, you're going to have no problem.
Got it. Have you seen any other kind of advantage from really working to build this relationship? I know you mentioned sometimes they might help you set up displays, anything like that you've seen where it's, I have a great relationship with this one district manager, and here's what I've seen out of it.
Absolutely. If you have a good relationship with the district manager, he's going to be a huge advocate for you as you move down the line. If you want to buy more routes, split your current route, he wants guys that are going to work hard, that are going to make sure that he doesn't have any problems in the store, and that you're growing sales. Ultimately, his bonus comes off of your performance. And so if you're a premium distributor, if you're always on time, you're always in stock, you're really driving promotions, driving sales, you're going to have a great advocate from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah, and that's really important to call out, is that, when you're thinking about ways of growing within an existing bakery, beyond adding stops, if you're talking about adding territory, this can be one of your biggest advocates and helping you kind of make that growth and next step. And so it's not a relationship to neglect, because if nothing else, they can be a partner for you in your existing territory, help you make those stores more effective. But as you're thinking about next steps, this is even better. And that's a great thing to call out, is that knowing how they're paid, knowing how they're bonused, and finding ways where you're all on the same page there is huge to kind of call out and work together to find the best ways to succeed. So that's the bakery level. The couple, make sure you know your depot manager, but really your district manager is one of the most important, and then always have those contractor relationships in the terminal. Now there's another place where you need to know people. So if we're talking about actually getting into the stores, can you kind of talk through the hierarchy of, the larger stores and the people that you need to know there?
Yes. So as you enter the store, the grocery market is really broken up into departments. And so you're going to have a deli, a bakery, a meat department, a frozen and dairy department, as well as a grocery department. So grocery is really the managers that you're going to be interacting with on a weekly basis. And under that, there's going to be an assistant grocery manager as well as a grocery manager. So these are people that manage end caps, they manage promotions, making sure that product is tagged appropriately. That's another big one. So when you have something that goes on sale, you want to make sure that you have a tag on it. You don't want to be selling it at a discount and no one knows it. So those are some of the relationships that you can manage and interact with on a weekly basis. And the grocery manager is going to be your greatest advocate to the store manager. So you're going to find the store manager is over all these departments. He's also going to have an assistant, and they're going to be looking at the overall operation of the store, online shopping, repaving the parking lot, backroom access, how product is moving throughout the grocery store. So all those things are top of mind for him. And once you get in a good relationship with the grocery manager, it's easy to go to the store manager, introduce yourself, make sure he knows who you are, and then you can begin looking for opportunities outside of the box.
Okay, got it. We'll get to some of those things, but now you called out a couple of those things there, but what would you say are the most important things to keep that grocery manager happy, or things that you've done or can do to cement that relationship?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we've already talked about, at the depot, not leaving your truck on the dock for too long. If you're, grabbing lunch in the deli, we don't want to leave our truck on the dock, tying up delivery schedules. You're going to have a receiver, someone that checks in the product in the back room, and they're going to have a lunchtime from maybe 9 to 10 o'clock, or it may vary by store. Be courteous to them. Don't show up at 8:45 if it takes you 30 minutes to get checked in, and push them late going to lunch. So those little common courtesies that you experience personally, can really transcribe over to the grocery business, and just make sure that you're looking out for other people.
Got it. Now you kind of hinted at it, where if you build the right relationship with the grocery manager, it can help you cement a relationship with the store manager. What are some of those advantages that come, if you've got a great relationship built with one or both of them, what can that get you? What are the things that can do for you in that store?
Yeah, so I can remember years ago, we had a new Pepperidge Farm came out with a new all wooden summer grill cart. This thing was nice. It was meaty. I mean, it looked really good, way different than, a cardboard display that you might be familiar with. Difficulty was it was a really big piece. It had main shelving, it had tie-in shelving, and it was so heavy that it wasn't something we could put out and then take down. And I really wanted to get this in the store. And so through the relationship with the grocery manager, he was able to pitch it to the store manager. And even though it was a little bit outside the box, we were able to tie in our product with their product. And so they had Publix branded ketchup, mustard, what was it, charcoal on the bottom. And so we had this whole summer grilling theme right next to the meat department, and we had it there all summer. So we had 4 months of fantastic sales off of that. That was really thinking outside the box, something that a grocery manager wouldn't have approved without the store manager's approval, because it was something big that was a little bit cumbersome to maneuver around, but it really looked good, and it made the store have that premium presence the store manager is looking for. So that's an example of having a good relationship with the grocery manager, and then going above and beyond to the store manager to do some things you wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Yeah. And that's really important, because, you think about these big companies like Pepperidge, they've got marketing departments, they know all of these things, they want to create these great displays, and that's great in theory, but yeah, exactly like you're saying, they're big. And so just because you want it in the store doesn't mean you get it in the store, especially if it's something that doesn't fit kind of the perfect plan of what they expect in the grocery and fit the floor plan. And so you're trying to build up this stock of goodwill and potential favors so that when those times come, you've got that relationship to ask for. And they're not going to just say, oh, either I don't know his name, I'm not doing anything extra for him, or I remember his name and that is why I'm not doing anything extra for him. But you want it to be something where they remember you and it's all positive and that it's you've worked together to build these relationships. So a time comes like that, and then now you've got, you cash in your favors and you've got 4 months of huge revenue. And so part of it is just understanding that you're not always going to get immediate feedback, immediate revenue and returns, but you've got to build these relationships so that they kind of work together towards preparing you for those days when you need them. And so you can't let those slide. You have to be really intentional about building those in the store. Now, that's kind of the big box. So we're talking Publix, Kroger, Walmart, those big ones that will have an assistant manager and a grocery manager and a store manager. What about some of these that are, a one-off deli? Who are you typically working with? Is it just someone that is the manager of the store? Do you talk with the owner? What does that normally look like differently than those big boxes?
Yeah, you nailed it. So small independent, store, you're going directly to the owner. If not, the grocery manager is going to the owner on your behalf. And sometimes that may be just a simple phone call. Sometimes that may be an in-person meeting before they bring the product on. But, if you can remind them that it's a guaranteed sale, that there's no risk to them, if the product doesn't sell, you're going to give them credit for it. It's really an easy sell.
Okay. And I imagine they can be a little more creative too, and however they decide to display it, because it's their store, they control everything, and it's kind of one decision matrix to find. But do you find that there's normally much back and forth with those, or is it mainly just, this is the product I'm providing, and it'll be here on time? Like, do you ever do anything different there, like displays or any kind of creative thing in those stores?
Yeah, kind of the sky's the limit. So as much as they're able or willing to give you, I would go after. The majority of your conversations with an independent are really going to be around pricing. These are savvy business people and they're trying to gain margin. So where, it's not negotiated on a national level like you might find in a super center. These are independent conversations between owners. And so you might, think about, some sort of scale requirement. So if you hit certain unit sales, I'm going to give you a 5% discount on the product, or whatever you come up with as, a businessman yourself. Be creative, think outside the box, and you're going to find lots of success.
Yeah, and that's one where you really, if you want to be creative and do those types of things, you can. There's, like Steven's saying, you can put in incentive structures, you can put in thresholds, whatever you want, because it's really just you and another person, a private kind of business transaction. And so I think for a lot of you, that kind of provides that opportunity to put those in and make whatever money you can, whatever additional money you can from setting those thresholds. So yeah, I think that's great. Is there really anything that harms those relationships other than just, not providing the product that you intended to and on time? Or do you find those are more flexible than the grocery relationships? Like, how do you compare the two?
Absolutely. Definitely more flexible. You're going to, find that you might see delivery hours, as late as 12, 2 o'clock, or anytime. They might always want the product, even if you're running behind. Like we've talked about, these are mom and pop shops, independents, and if they don't have the product to sell, they're not making money. And so you're usually going to see a lot of flexibility, and they're going to work with you, and it's going to be a good relationship.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I think that's all the relationships I can think of that could possibly be a part of this space. If you don't have any more, I think we can go ahead and call it here. If anyone has any questions while I'm going through this last chunk, you can go ahead and type them in. But as a reminder for anybody who's looking at this space, just First off, like we've talked about all day, it's not something you do alone. There are key relationships that you want to build across the network in a bunch of different places. But the other thing that, I want to always make sure everybody's aware of is that there are ways that both Route Consultant and Steven can work with you and help make sure that if you're getting into this space, you do it right. You get set up properly, you build the right structure for your corporate plan and for your operational plan. And so there's a bunch of different ways we can work together, but the easiest, if you haven't seen it already, first, we have all of our webinars on YouTube. We also have a free one-on-one course on our website. If you're kind of looking for that next step, we still do a new investor summit for Bread. And the goal of that, think about it kind of as in two pieces. One, it's kind of like a digital 201 type of course that comes with it. But more importantly, we want to get you out to Nashville in person so that you can meet and speak with us and Steven and really help answer any lingering questions or doubts that you may have about the space, and then help you make the right decisions to move forward as quickly as you can with as much confidence as you can. And so those are our next one is actually March 28th. So if you're trying to plan that next step, we've got one coming in 2 weeks. Now, other than that, there are ways, like I said, where if you're already a contractor or about to stand up, that you can work directly with Steven on an ongoing weekly basis to help with those conversations. So if you have questions on any of that, feel free to reach out to us, info@routeconsultant.com. We can talk through where you are and help you think through where you want to go next. Other than that, I'll go ahead and call it for today. So Steven, thank you so much for being on here and always sharing your knowledge and helping everybody out.
Thank you, Josh, and everyone else. I will see you guys next week.
Perfect. All right. See you, everybody.